So today I'm going to talk about assuring safety of automated vehicle trials and testing. So we've had quite a lot of CAV experience, and in particular around safety assurance for CAV projects. Our first one that we started in 2015 were the gateway trials. And there were three main trials. One was last mile delivery. We also looked at last mile transit and also automated valet parking. And the key objective of the gateway trial was understanding and exploring the public perception around CAV. But our priority remained about safety and understanding how we could assure safety during CAV trials and testing. And it was during the Gateway project that we first developed the safety case framework, looking at the operational safety. So how do vehicles, automated vehicles, respond around sort of other passengers and other users. We then looked at driven, and we took the safety case framework and applied it to driven and did safety assurance. So we were able to look at a different safety case and understand how well that was developed and identify any gaps within that safety case. We then applied it further during Streetwise and developed the safety case for an urban ride-sharing demonstration. Helm UK is the first on-road platooning trial, and we developed the safety case and the risk management for that. And interestingly, with Highways England, they have a GG104 process, and we were able to combine that GG104 process into the safety case and develop that safety case further. And then we've got SMLL, where we've developed and implemented a number of safety processes and developed a safety assurance process. So if a safety case is developed for a trial that's happening within SMLL, how do we evaluate that? How do we understand if that process is appropriate? So there's a safety challenge. What's a safety challenge with automated vehicle trials and testing? Our objective, as I say, is always ensuring safety through trials and testing. We want to enable testing and also the development and learning, whilst also enhancing public confidence. The challenge really was providing assurance for stakeholders. We've got a number of trials of varying complexity. So how do you provide assurance for the stakeholders for very simple trials, but also for the more complex trials and in the future for advanced trials? We wanted to see consistency in safety case development and also consistency in the evaluation. So really the solution to this is having a standardized approach to safety, ensuring that safety management is proportionate to the level of risk posed. So you're not going overboard and creating, a wealth of information for a very simple trial in a very sort of simple environment. But we also want to provide assurance to stakeholders. There's a number of different CAV standards. So at the top of the chain, we've got the DFT Code of Practice, which very much sets the high level requirements for safety. What you need to have a safe case, you need to record certain information, and it is all very high level. Now CCAV and BSI have combined together to create a CAV standards advisory board where a lot of industry is represented. And we've worked out what standards would be useful so that we don't create a barrier to trials and testing, but we actually enable it in a safe environment. And there's a suite of publicly available specifications that have been developed over the last couple of years. PAS 1881 on safety case development and PAS 1883 on the operating conditions and ODD taxonomy are very useful documents that really sort of outline and take the requirements of the Code of Practice that one step further. PAS 1884 is on safety driver requirements, and that is being developed at the moment. But it's all about reflecting industry good practice, understanding what's happening now and sharing that information. Now, sitting underneath PAS 1881 is a Zenzik safety case framework, which expands that further. So it takes the requirements of the code of practice, it takes the expansion within PAS 1881, and it creates further guidance that's specific for test beds. Now, there are other stakeholders that could then develop that guidance as well, maybe insurance companies or local authorities, road authorities, and understand how you can apply the requirements of PAS 1881 to a different environment. So the code of practice has a couple of key messages for safety assurance. One is that trialling organisations are expected to develop a detailed safety case that demonstrates that trial activity is safe. And also that those people planning a trial should engage with relevant organisations who are responsible for that trial. So what are the roles within safety assurance? So we've got safety case development. This is done by trialling organisations, or they may contract somebody to develop their safety case for them. You also have safety case acceptance. So who might accept a safety case? It could be a road authority, it could be a landowner, it could be an insurer. So first of all, I'll talk about safety case development. So what is a safety case? A safety case doesn't have to be one document. It could be a suite of documents, but it basically is a structured argument that then demonstrates that that trial or the testing that's being conducted is safe. Why do we need it? It really does promote safety during technology development. It minimises risk and it does provide that insurance to stakeholders that the trial and testing is safe. And as I say, the stakeholders may be insurers. You know, do I or don't I insure this trial? It could be a highway authority. Is this trial safe to happen within our remit? It could be a road operator, or it could be a landowner. So safety cases for automated vehicle trials. There's two elements to it. First of all, there's system safety. Now that may include safety of the intended function, it may include functional safety, it may include cybersecurity, but it's looking at the whole system and understanding whether that system is safe. We then have operational safety, which is in line with PAS 1881. And this is about safe operation and control, managing the risks within a defined operating environment, which is where PAS 1883 comes into it. And together that creates a body of evidence so that we understand what the risks are, we've identified how those risks will be managed, and we've informed our stakeholders that the trial and testing is safe. So the key components of an operational safety case are here. It's centered around a risk assessment. You know, what could go wrong? Why might that go wrong? What mitigations are you going to put in place to ensure that the risk of that event being realized is minimized? The ODD, so the operational design domain, sets the scope of that safety case. So what are the operating conditions that your vehicle can function in? And that sets the scope. So you don't have a safety case that covers the strategic road network if you're specifically going to be testing in an urban environment. We look at the route selection and the assessment around that. What are your hazards? How are you controlling that? Are you going past a school? Are there going to be specific times when there could be more vulnerable pedestrians around? Then there's the reporting, monitoring, and continuous improvement. So we want to monitor safety. We want to understand what's going on, but how are you going to do that? And how are you going to feed that information back into your safety case to ensure that you're continually improving safety? Compliance and insurance. You're complying with the relevant road safety legislation, vehicle legislation, the code of practice, the standards, and you've got appropriate insurance as well. And then we move on to safety case acceptance. So you've got your safety case as a trialling organisation, and somebody needs to then accept that safety case and say, yes, we'll insure your trial, or yes, you can test in our environment. Now, those reviewers may be local authorities, they may be highway authorities, insurers, or they may be testbeds like SMLL. And there's a couple of different options which I'll explore today. There's the independent technical review of a safety case. This is the in-depth review of a safety case in its entirety. There's also the higher level safety assurance and due diligence, which is what the Code of Practice requires. The challenge is the technical knowledge of the reviewers to understand system safety and operational safety, and to be able to apply that and technically review a safety case in a lot of detail takes a lot of technical knowledge. There's the cost of the review. Where does that sit? Is it a testing organisation? Is it the person requiring the review to be done? Where does the liability sit? As a local authority, for example, or as a test bed, if you're reviewing that safety case and you're identifying what the gaps are and understanding the safety case, at that point, does the liability shift to you? At the moment, there is no standard approval method of safety cases. But we want to be able to have a transition between locations. We want a testing organisation to be able to start in one area of the country and move to another area of the country through multiple road authorities, through different local authorities, and be able to really move between those locations without having to have multiple safety cases. The safety case needs to be accessible as well. And then we have the solution. So we want to develop a cost-effective review. We want to ensure compliance with the Code of Practice and the supporting standards that I spoke about. And we also want to provide a consistent and simple approach. Now, we've just started a project called Endeavour, where actually we're going to be looking in more detail at these options of safety case acceptance and safety assurance. But I'll look at the two different areas now and explain what we've done so far. So we've got the independent technical review of a safety case. This is the in-depth review by somebody who is competent. This ensures consistency in safety case development and the application of standards. It also ensures consistency in the evaluation and acceptance of safety cases. We can make sure that there's compliance with CAV standards, the Code of Practice, and the various road safety regulations. And this provides really the ultimate assurance to stakeholders. So you review it, you do a gap analysis, and then you can support the testing organisations in filling the gaps that maybe you've identified in the review. This is something that we've already done as part of the Driven project, and also within SMLL, and have developed evaluation criteria so that we can technically review a safety case. And this is going to be developed further within the Endeavour project in collaboration with BSI. Then we have safety assurance and due diligence. So this is the much higher level review. SMLL knew that we needed to accept safety cases that were coming in. People wanted to test within the test environment. We knew that we needed to have a process whereby we could accept or otherwise a safety case. So we consulted with Meyer and Millbrook. How do they understand what testing is appropriate? How do they accept it within their environments? And using sort of their good practice as it stands, we identified key questions that could be asked that would actually assure safety and ensure good practice is followed. Now, the benefits of this is it's an efficient process. It's quick. It's not going to create a barrier to testing. There's very limited technical knowledge that's needed by the person who's accepting the safety case. The testing organisations are providing that assurance, which means that really they're maintaining that liability. It also means that test beds and local authorities are in line with the code of practice. They're doing the due diligence. They're making sure that testing is appropriate for their environment without taking on the liability. So within SMLL, we have our high-level SMLL policies. And underneath this, we've written the safety assurance questions. What do we need to ask a testing organisation to get that assurance that the trial or testing that they're going to be doing is safe? And we've developed different questions for automated vehicle trials, connected vehicle trials, or a combination of automated and connected trials. Emerging technology. You know, if you've got a vehicle that maybe has unusual technology to it, there are still risks associated with it. And there's still the potential for risks like driver distraction, cybersecurity risks as well. So it's understanding what questions we need to ask. The safety assurance questions are on a variety of topics: trial design, operational and system safety, safe operation and control, so the safety driver, remote operation, the operational design domain, as well as things like the route, compliance, safety monitoring and continuous improvement. So it's asking the high level questions to provide that assurance to SMLL that the trial and testing is safe. We've developed some software, and it's in its very early stages at the moment, which would be live software. So as somebody who's needing to accept a safety case, you would be able to install this software, provide the link to a trialing organisation, and they can do the information online. You can then accept it. But we need to do further consultation, and the development is very much ongoing. We want to make sure that this meets the needs of the end user, that it meets the needs of the industry. And whilst it's assuring safety, it's also enabling learning, encouraging market growth. And ultimately, we want to maintain the UK's position as leading the way in CAV safety. So now, hopefully, we'll be able to move to the questions.
And Camilla, hopefully you can hear me now after all my IT issues.
I can hear you, yes.
Excellent. I have not got any questions in the chat screen at the moment that I can see, but I do have some questions from earlier before we went into the breakout rooms that were put in the general section that I might put to you. So Doug had a question on compliance with CCAV's code of practice and safety case requirements for testing of this nature. Who holds the compliance documents of the safety case, and also who has it been independently reviewed?
Okay, so the safety case needs to be appropriate for each and each individual testing. So we have safety assurance individual safety cases for that particular trial or testing that's happening within SMLL. So the safety case, I think my sort of presentation probably answers quite a lot of the question, to be honest, but it ensures compliance with the code of practice, ensures compliance with the relevant standards, and yeah, the safety case is unique for that.
Okay, sorry, my internet I think is being funny. Another question from the same person, which may be quite easy to answer. Would you allow any client use the facilities without a safety case, and who reviews the safety cases?
There would definitely not be trials or testing happening without a safety case. We're very, very keen within SMLL to make sure that we're following good practice and that actually, you know, we're developing best practice. And safety case now is definitely good practice. So when a safety case comes to us, we would do a high level review to make sure that it's compliant with the code of practice, compliant with the relevant standards, and that actually the test or trials are appropriate for the environment.
Okay, a question from Jack. How does this safety case approach compare with those in North America and China?
Well, my understanding is that a lot of the elements of PAS 1881 have actually been adopted by other areas internationally. The UK is definitely sort of very forward thinking in its approach to safety. And the safety case framework is very much, it very much reflects standard sort of risk management good practice.
Okay, and then I have one last question at the moment. On safety case documentation, can you advise as to whether this is regulation or guidance?
Oh, it's guidance. The code of practice is a definite requirement, and you do need to comply with the code of practice. But the standards that sit below that are specifications, but they are not a legal requirement. You know, in time that may come, but whilst everything's very iterative and technology is evolving so quickly, standards have been put in place to try and sort of get that consistency.
Okay, a question from Axel. When is PAS 1884 coming out? I'm not sure if that's something you know the answer to.
Yeah, it should be July next year. So it's in the early stages of development. We're setting up the steering group at the moment, and we've done the initial sort of due diligence with representatives from across industry to make sure that the scope is appropriate. And yeah, that should be published sort of middle of next year, really.
Okay, that's all the questions I have at the moment. I don't know if there were any questions while I couldn't get into the room that Webinar Jam has decided not to show me. I don't know, Camilla, if you can see any others in your chat window.
I can't see any at all in my in mine. I've had technology nightmares, to be honest. So
yes, we both.
It totally threw me, but hopefully you got the idea of the sort of safety assurance and the safety cases. Very happy for people to contact me directly so that I can explain more about what it is that we're doing in terms of safety assurance, get your opinions on the different types of safety assurance so that we can feed that into the development. That would actually be really helpful. So if we have no further questions, I think that's it. Thank you everybody for joining the group. Apologies for technical errors. Yeah, I don't understand how it all went wrong, but hopefully you got the idea. So thank you very much for joining, and please do contact me with any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.